In the first meditation, I would like to just be with what is happening for you now. In particular, I want to point out an obvious thing, but it's quite interesting to experience it, and that is that your whole experience is happening within mind. Or if this is too much for you, you could say it is perceived through mind. So everything what is your experience right now is an appearance in consciousness. Everything. You think that you look at the world out there, but actually, like if we switch into a neuropsychological way of thinking about this, what you perceive is a mental hologram in your frontal cortex, heavily distorted through your senses, through your experience, through your projections, through your inner world. So you have actually never perceived the outside world. This is amazing to realize, because then it becomes obvious how important mind training is. All you have is what is happening in consciousness, in your mind. You not even could check if there's a world out there, which is questionable. I mean, that's not only physics question that, but also philosophy and Buddhism, at least some part of Buddhism, not all. You couldn't check, even if you look very quick. Is there a world out there? Because you use the mind, you use consciousness. So what you see here, when you say, "Oh, I see Stefan," it's a mental projection. That's all you have. And this mental projection is, first, you could say, you filter out all kinds of frequencies and colors and stuff. 90% of this is made from dark matter or something like that. So the kind of information which arises in the frontal cortex is so limited. But then on top of that, you have all the other cognitive stuff which you put on, which you make this image from. Of course, and then it's a good question, and it's a profound question in the Buddhist philosophy. So, is there Stefan out there? Is there a real Stefan? Like a Stefan which does not depend on you seeing Stefan. Or are there two Stefans, the one in your head and the real Stefan? So I want to just, while we sit here, relax, I want to just throw this a bit into the experience. Not too long, because otherwise we would just slide into dullness. So if you take a few moments to resettle, adjust your posture, and you check the inner weather. If there is tiredness, then a good start to relate to it is through acceptance. So not making a problem out of it. And even being curious about what you would call tiredness or dullness. You might want to stabilize a bit with a certain object like the breath or your hands or the sounds. Just take a few moments of sliding into a more grounded presence, grounded in the present moment. And returning when you get too much entangled into the stream of thinking, and dropping back into the more sensory level of your experience, into what is happening here now. If there's tension building up, the relaxation part is very important. So that you start to notice tension in your meditation, and then that you back off the effort, maybe with the out-breath, softening the belly, the shoulders, or also the face where the tension is building. So that your mind and your heart and your body becomes more and more soft. So there is the content of your experience, Sem in Tibetan, which contains of the stream of the 5 sense data, and then the conceptual mind, labeling, judging, telling stories. So if you look at that as if it's like a stream or clouds coming and going, sounds, sensations, breath, thoughts, feelings. So in whatever it is, what is happening there, and whatever it is, what is in the foreground, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, it's happening in mind, it's happening in consciousness, it's happening in awareness. Like a dream, exactly like a dream. It's happening in the same place where the dreams happen. And they also made out of the stuff your dreams are made out of. So one way to get a taste of what it means that everything happens in your mind is just to say, this is a dream, this is like a dream. Even the sense of I, the sense of your body, or the sense of feeling like here I am, also that is part of the dream. It's an appearance in consciousness, also changing and moving and flowing. So you stay a bit stabilized with your breath or with your hands. With a sense of I. And then you recognize it as a dream. Vibration and consciousness. Made out of consciousness. And you might notice when you lean into that all these appearances, they are not as solid or as real as they seem to be. They become a bit more spacious, a bit more transparent, like dream images. So the voice you're listening to now, where is that happening? Isn't that perceived within consciousness, through consciousness? Like a dream. The appearance of this voice is made from the same stuff like your dreams. It's like a sound in your dream. It's in the same place, made from the same stuff. So you let all the psychological brain stuff in the shelf, and you just look into your own experience directly, not relying on something you read somewhere. Just you rely on yourself, on your own introspection. So now I invite you to look for something in your experience which is not happening in consciousness. So go search. So I ask you to find something which is not happening in your mind. Like the moon, for example. And you look into all directions. Down, up, north, south, west, east. The car, where is it? In your experience. So the sense of I, like, maybe you have a sense of, so this is my body, or this is my name, this is my memory. It's a dream, it's like a dream. It's happening, it's an appearance in consciousness. A changing appearance in consciousness in your mind. The ego, what some people call the ego. And then if you would add wisdom to this, then you would say all these appearances within consciousness, they are empty. They don't have an essence. They don't have a findable essence. So all you have is empty appearances in consciousness, unfindable, without essence, yet appearing like a dream. You have dream appearances, obviously, but they don't have any essence. So just let it flow. Sensations, sounds, thoughts. All happening in consciousness like a dream. So in that dream, in your experience right now, can you find a boundary? So if you go to the edge, so you go to the edge of your experience and you look. So can you find a boundary? Does it stop? So if I look into this space now, and you look into that space now, do you think it's two different spaces, or are we looking at the same? Where's the boundary between me and you? Am I not inside of you? Are you not inside of me? This voice, is that inside or outside? And the space from which this voice is coming from, and the space in which is it perceived, is it the same space or two different spaces? If it's two different spaces, where's the boundary between these two spaces? Where's the boundary between consciousness here and consciousness there? And you just look. Forget the books. Forget that you believe that we are looking into the brain or something like that. You just use your own introspection. Where's the boundary between my heart and your heart? Are we looking into the same heart? If not, where's the boundary? Then back to the sense of I. So when you say I, so when you say I am here, so that experience, I am here. Isn't it an appearance in consciousness? Like a dream? Like in the dream you make up a dream body made out of consciousness. So the sense of being localized isn't that an empty appearance in mind? Like a dream? Vividly appearing, yet empty. No essence, unfindable. So whatever it is which comes to the foreground, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, senses, the sense starter and the conceptual level, is like a dream. No big deal, actually. It's amazing that we take it so important. So the same is true also when you open your eyes and you look. So that's the moment where then that kind of more spacious way of being can collapse, because we really think we are looking at an outside world. So, but you can have the same kind of more transparent experience with the sight. It's the same. It's like a dream. It's created. through you. It's made up. Independent if we discuss is there something outside or not, and what is that? What is there outside there? What it is for you? Well, one thing is sure, it is absolutely not the way you see it. Absolutely not. You're completely wrong. Completely wrong. Not wrong in a bad way, yeah? Let's say completely mistaken. Completely mistaken. You can argue with a bee. No, I'm right. It's how I see it. Can't you see? And the bee says, no, it's completely different colors, completely different frequencies, completely, because the bee lives in a different universe, like you. So, yes.
I'm a bit curious. I mean, since we are blind in our experience, I have two questions. One of them are, how come as human beings we have so similar experiences? How come we conceptualize things in such a similar way? I think it was Solsa Kensen who said, like, we have successful miscommunication or unsuccessful miscommunication. But how come we think we can have successful miscommunication?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, the Buddhist answer as often is it's karma. So we have a certain way formed from habits to process the information, a similar way. So that's called collective karma. So it's kind of, we wear the same kind of karmic glass, similar karmic glasses. Of course, you are in a different place than me. But still, we can, as you say, we can have a successful miscommunication that this is chocolate. Yeah, so, but if you would be hungry ghost, which is like it's not like a being, it's a point of view, you would see a piece of shit. And then we couldn't have even a successful miscommunication. Because the chocolate is not in here. Yeah. So it can be seen in different ways with different karmic glasses. So that's how successful miscommunication, I have not heard that before, it's really nice. Successful miscommunication can happen. That's the Buddhist view. It's not even, it's not even like, you can't even generalize it to all humans. It's very difficult for me to have a successful miscommunication with a Tibetan. They live on another planet. They perceive the world so different. I can't even talk with them about feelings, really. I think and then if you would bring like a Aborigine, like, a real one, into this place. Of course, there is things where still successful miscommunication can happen, but it's quite different how they see the world. Really see the world. It's very different. And it's not that the environment changes, it's the glasses we use. And so this also depends, of course, on our cultures. So, like, so for me, for example, it's easier for me to have a successful miscommunication with a Swedish person because they are so damn German. Than with a Spanish person. Yeah.
But in terms of like trees and stones.
Yeah, it's the same. So if I have if I try to have a successful communication with the bug who's living here, or let's take the extreme example of a hungry ghost, then it would be the same. The karmic view is really creating what the things are for you. And then you would ask this question, I ask it in the meditation. So is there something out there? Can we agree upon something which is out there? And there the Buddhist, different philosophies, they have different answers to that. So some say it's two things. It's something from out there, let's call it energy or something like that. And then the conceptual mind comes together. So these two things come together. So that kind of makes sense for us, because you could, if you would use the quantum physics as a model, so they would say there's a potentiality there. And to become that which this is, to become what it is for you, you need to look. And so you're looking, and here in the Buddhist words, your karma shapes out of that potentiality that which it is for you. But the kind of the philosophical schools which are most shared within the Tibetan tradition, called Prasangika Madhyamika, they would say there is nothing there. Everything is created through conceptuality, through labeling. You can't find any essence there.
How do you perceive those two philosophies? Do you get confused?
No. Why would I get confused? I mean, they both make sense for me. And since, I'm pretty brainwashed into the Prasangika Madhyamika, so that's what but kind of the other, there's something called the mind-only school, which also is, at least from the more meditative tradition in Tibet, they sometimes hold that view, at least when they describe the experience. So they would say, there's something like consciousness, so that's real, that's findable. And everything is made out of consciousness. But what I said just before. So that kind of meditation was a kind of Chittamatrian meditation. It's the mind-only school. But it does not confuse me in the sense that I play with them. And of course, still this the Prasangika Svatrantika is the school which says two things need to come together: a mind, the observer, and something there, and that creates reality. And before someone looks, it's the quantum soup, and so that makes sense to me. So it's like that makes sense to me. I don't get really the one that there's nothing there.
Because
I mean, intellectually, but not.
I'll probably ask the same question once again, but I mean, since the vessel I am experiencing through this human body, but
this human body, in the Buddhist point of view, is a karmic experience, forced upon you through certain actions in the past.
Yeah. But for instance, if I'm about to die in 10 minutes, are you guys still going to be here then?
That's a good question. Some schools in quantum physics would say no. They would even say, in the moment where we talk here, Stockholm disappears into a kind of quantum soup potentiality.
Now we're talking about science.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
So, in Buddhism, there's equally different answers. So there's like schools who, as I said yesterday, I think, they have a really materialistic worldview. So they would say the only thing which does not exist is a separate, autonomous I, but everything else is as it is. Just the I, the separate, autonomous, singular I, that's unfindable. But they leave the rest. They leave at peace. You are not going to get clear answers to this question, but still, it's good. This is like so you ask them, and you come into the place of where the conceptual mind gives up, or so. But it's good to ask this question, and some people have much smarter answers to this than me. I'm not like a scholar, Buddhist scholar or something. One thing is good if what I say in our conversation, I think you kind of grasp what I said, but if this really confuses you, that is very good. This is very good. If you get a bit of an unease, like, oh, this is philosophy, this is, bullshit, too complicated. How does that help me with my feelings? Yeah, I don't understand it. So that's good, because it's like when our materialistic worldview starts to shake a bit, if you start to, just the doubt, to have the doubt that the things exist in the way I believe they exist, just to have doubts in that, that's very good. So any other questions, or yeah?
I was thinking about healing.
You
spoke about healing, the spiritual practice, and the psychotherapy. And in your experience, what belongs where?
In which, so where healing belongs?
What healing? Because you spoke about mommy and daddy issues yesterday, and approaching or the need to be special and healing that somewhere else, not doing that in the spiritual practice. But at the same time, you spoke about healing through meditation. So I was wondering where.
So I found I feel for myself and for people I know, it seems to be helpful to to benefit from different approaches and different traditions. And I have doubts. As I said, I can understand that someone could have a strong opinion that the Buddha Dharma is enough. But I don't see that working, let's say it like that. I understand it conceptually, but I don't see it happening in people. I see that people get stuck when they are too kind of fundamentalistic, or now the Buddha Dharma, that's it. So it's more like experiential from my experience that I think it's helpful. But this does not answer your question. Can you maybe answer it differently? Yeah, you can answer to that would be nice. Yes. But then you wouldn't ask the question. Yeah.
So yesterday when you were talking about, okay, so you find a teacher, and then, but you shouldn't bring your issues.
It depends. It depends. So let's say you now, after me talking about projection and so on. So let's imagine you meet a teacher, and you notice this is coming up. That's excellent, because you can work with it right there. I mean, it's like you don't need to do psychotherapy, because so now you're aware of that possibility, and you use the situation of that needy girl coming up in the relationship to a teacher to look at it and being aware of her. And being aware of her is already the biggest part in the healing process. Being aware of something lovingly, with wisdom, that will heal that, or in Buddhism we say purify it. But then if you notice you get stuck there, so you're aware of it, 10 years later you're aware of it, yeah? Or she is like just, you become like a stalker groupie to a teacher, yeah? So then I would advise you, girl, do some therapy. This is not the place to bring this in. No, we are not here, in this kind of environment. We are not here to deal with that. Well, I'm not here, unless you pay me better to work with that. So then I would say it's good to go somewhere else with it, and then use a space like this for something else, and the relationship to a teacher for something else. Something more?
No, I think that was it. It's just when you spoke of it, it seemed so pure to approach another human being without all the attachment issues.
You don't. You can't. Yes, you can't. And that's actually the wonderful thing when you relate. I mean, I'm not that kind of teacher. I'm I'm just more like a friend, So that's how I would want to relate to you. And that's what my capacity is. But if we talk about like a qualified master, then all that will come up. So all that will come up. And often, people who are a bit mature and they get the right kind of teachings, they use this situation. So they oh wow, this is like all this stuff which is coming up, father-mother issue, or anger, arrogance, fear, guilt, It's like it's amazing what a qualified teacher, a master, can bring up in you. And but then in the same time, he's teaching you loving kindness and emptiness and so on and so on. So slowly, you will start to feel how you become more comfortable, less awkward, less stuff coming up, because you trust also more the love of the teacher. So you hide less. So it's part of the relationship, that kind of healing possibility. But then again, if there's something really something which is disturbing, or you get stuck, let's say, like sometimes we get stuck into something. Yes, you can work with anxiety on your cushion, but sometimes you get stuck And then you start to notice after some time, wow, I'm actually, through the meditation practice, I'm going down. Like I re-traumatize myself with the meditation object. And then it's good if someone says, oh, are you okay? This is not working. I need to back up here. I need to address this in a different way. There's people who get re-traumatized in meditation retreats through the instruction, oh, just stay with it, just be aware of it, it's empty. And they sit there. What was, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. Yeah, and they leave their retreat with, oh, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. So if that happens, then it would be good if the teacher would say, or you, just go for walks. Let's talk with each other. I know it's a silent retreat, but it's time to talk. Eat more, have a beer, and then maybe you want to look at this in psychotherapy. Do you disagree or?
No, I was curious about.
Yeah.
Interpretation.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Can I say something about this? Because I'm a therapist, I'm a psychosynthesis candidate. And the way you described the teams and the work, how to handle the teams, that's, to me, I was very touched by that, because that's the basic tool I use for therapy. So that's really reparenting to me. And when we talk about self-compassion, that it just, to me, I just connected to that so strongly that is what I'm doing with my clients and teaching them self-compassion in that way. Just, telling my teams they're okay and they're actually, I'm helping my clients finding gold in what they're trying to get rid of and trying to shut out. But I also realized for myself that I have this huge team, hammering team going on. So I just wanted to ask you, because you said, don't hammer. And so then I'm re-traumatizing my hammering guy. So that's what I was sitting with. Okay, so this is going on.
You're hammering the hammering.
Yes. So what to do with my hammer? I need to give him another assignment, and that's my sitting right there.
This is a good remark. Which again shows the complexity to give any helpful instruction. So, of course, the assumption is that the hammering team, as you said, there's gold, So, and you can't get rid of the hammering team. That's anyway impossible. If you try to get rid of the hammering team, they hammer more. They always will win. And there's life force in the hammering team, a lot of life force. So, of course, it makes, like another instruction one hears often, which belongs into the same category. So don't judge your experience. Good luck with that. It's not going to happen. So, but still, somehow it makes sense to say it. Because it can be heard in a good way. So sometimes I'm smart enough then to say, when I give it this instruction in meditation, I say, so to not judge means also not to judge the judging. Just judge. So don't create a second demon. No? So that's what we often do. There's this kind of disturbance for judging, and then we create another demon which is judging that. So this connects me with another important thing. When I say do not judge, it's actually describing the goal. So the goal, which would be such a relaxed mind and such an open heart that judgment does not appear anymore. But do not judge is not the practice. Yeah? So if I say do not judge, I kind of describe a possibility, an idealistic possibility. But then people feel it's an instruction. So the question would be, how do I get to the place of non-judgment, of completely equanimity? And then you might get instructions. For example, let everything be as it is, including the judging. Or so all the other instructions. And then slowly, a non-judgmental mind starts to arise. A kind of being which does not judge anymore. So this is so dangerous to work with ideal stuff, because we are not going to get there. Not tomorrow. So judging would be, so first we judge. Go to a coffee shop and look around. We judge each other. You judge me. It's just like that. And if you deny that, then you're just a big liar or unaware. Yeah, I don't judge. This reminds me of someone. It's like 20 years ago when I did my first meditation retreat. And he proclaimed in the group, "Wow, I love you all, and I don't judge anyone." Yeah, and I think, oh, Jesus. So then this guy does retreat, and I was in that group, and he became a bit quieter with that proclamation, and then in the middle of the retreat he said, "Shit, I didn't realize what an asshole I am. The reason why I didn't judge people is I didn't got close to the ones I didn't like." Yeah. So we judge. So then I would make this judgments the meditation object. Where do I feel it in the body? How is this particular judgment connected with my psychological history? What is this process? What is it telling me? What's the wisdom in it? What does it need? Yeah. So I would work like that, with compassion, curiosity, and this, what you say, there's gold in it, to assume. In the tantric tradition, you would say there's a wisdom aspect in it. Yeah. And then, you said, this is also good to say, to give it another assignment. Because the intention of the judgment is to protect you. It's not an enemy. And it was, from a psychological point of view, a good thing that it developed, it protected you. You might want to outgrow it now, because you are not 5 years old anymore, but it's a good guy. Yes, very good addition to everything I said. Because it's so difficult to sit here and not making the life of people more difficult. Yeah. like with this really kind advice, do not judge. You leave and you feel worse than before. I mean, you wouldn't, but you can work with it. But you know, someone else could be really get into a worse place than before the weekend.
Could be very good, but
in the long
very grateful.
In the long run, yes, yeah. In the long run, of course, it's good when stuff comes up, but of course, my wish is to take pressure away from people and not put more pressure into the life of people. Yes.
Could you say something more about the wisdom aspect of anger? Because somebody told me that people are very angry, they can be very intelligent because they say things. They say what's wrong. Now you shouldn't do that. It's actually because you're quite smart.
You're
quite smart.
Yeah.
You just because then you judge yourself and then go down that loop. But then if you could just see that's not the right thing to do, and just if that's sometimes anger needs to come if you don't really listen to that kind of that's not right. If you don't listen to that, that's not right. Then anger needs to sort of get stronger. That is not right, and then so it can actually be some discrimination and some wisdom in that. But I think it's very seldom I hear they say that you said that sentence, but then they don't explain.
Yeah. Okay. So now I have 20 minutes. Then we have a break. So I try to explain this in 20 minutes. It's a kind of bouillon. And it connects also with a question someone asked over Facebook. Similar, so almost the same. So that's right. Yet now we need to leave the Lam-Rim a little. So in the Lam-Rim, you would rather find the approach that anger is not good. Yeah. It's one of the three. Yeah, poison. As if any feeling is a poison, but they call it like that. It's horrible. As if there's something wrong with our feelings, as if they are dangerous. Yeah, so it's horrible. But so we need to use some of the practices in the Lam-Rim, but we need to go into the tantric approach. So there it is about transformation, and the wisdom aspect of anger is clarity. Yeah. So now, the ideal of anger in the tantric tradition, like what we're heading towards. There's no tantric wrathful stuff here, but it's appropriate that there's no tantric wrathful stuff here. But so it's called wrathful compassion, and they have the symbols of that. And so let's call it heart anger. So heart anger is the possibility to be forceful in your expression, but not losing the connection with your heart. Do you have a sense what I kind of? Maybe it could be a bit of a mother who does not lose the connection with her child, but appears forceful. Even shouts.
Robina.
Yeah. And of course, the same mother has a lot of experience where she loses the connection with the heart. She becomes 5 years herself. But she knows that state. So let's call it heart anger. Obviously, heart anger is the goal. So what are the practices to get there? It's very difficult, and we fail in that on the path. So there's a few things. Very quick. First is a skill called anger in. So you need to be able to not to express the anger when it is not appropriate. You need to have that skill in place. Some of you are too good in it. You know, because you have high blood pressure and and some cancer in the stomach or something. Yeah, but that needs to be in place. You need to be able, and Shantideva calls it, become like a log of wood. You pause, time out. So you are a person who is able to pause when the anger is overwhelming. It's a skill. It's a skill which can be also a curse, yeah, but it's a skill. The second is anger out. You also need to have the skill to let it out. Politically incorrect. You need to be able to know how it is to shout, to kick, to connect with your power, and not to be afraid of it. Obviously, you don't do this with your child. You do this with a friend. You do this by yourself. You do that in a workshop. Yeah. Many people, they are so good in anger in because they are afraid of anger out. It was not allowed in their family. They feel guilty about it. Oh, I can't say this. No, you need to you need to be able to take the sword. Yeah, because then you can leave it. But if you are not able to take the sword and you leave it, then you're just afraid to take the sword, and you pretend that you're a kind person. You're just afraid to say something. So anger in, anger out. The third skill which needs to be in place is mindful anger. So mindful anger is the capacity to find this middle way between anger in and anger out. So you become a kind of container for the energy. Yeah? So there's, rain model, Tara Brach, just basic mindfulness practices where you learn to be with your experience, neither suppressing it nor acting it out. You give space to it. You explore anger. You see it's an energy coming out. You get to know anger. So part of mindfulness practice is then that you start to distinguish between the conceptual level of anger and the energy level of anger. Part of that is also to see your psychological history of your anger. So there's some more insight within mindful anger. So it's exploring anger and learning from it. Different kinds of anger. Is your anger cold? Is your anger hot? Do you get away with this kind of passive anger so that your partner can be angry? Yeah, I'm not angry. I'm the good guy. I just look coldly at you. So that's the part of mindful anger. And mindful anger is really it's not an easy practice. No, when you start to practice mindful anger, you think you will die. So one of the important insights in mindful anger is you start to see that anger is actually a secondary emotion which is hiding something beneath. Vulnerability, sadness, helplessness. You actually feel helpless, you feel vulnerable. And because that's such a difficult place to be, you escape into a kind of pseudo power of anger. Yeah. And sometimes, sometimes that is good. I mean, sometimes if you work with people, I try to make them angry because, come on, just say what you think. So if you tell me, I hate my father, I want to kill him, of course, I don't, if you say this to me, I know there is more, but still, there needs to be space to express that, to get to know it, not to be afraid of it. Yeah, but I'm a Buddhist. I love my father. It's most of the time when people say this is bullshit. It's not what they feel. They feel so bad about feeling bad about their parents. And that leads into depression. You know? Depression is, it does not lead into depression, but it could be part of this complex thing which we call depression. Could be either suppressed anger or suppressed sadness. And then once you suppress, you also suppress the joy. You get flat. So if you help someone who thinks is depressed and you can make her angry, that can be really like, wow. Then you have suddenly there's vitality. So mindful anger, obviously complex. Yeah. Then, so that's like the three kinds of skills. So heart anger, I described that also. So I talk about. So you can talk about this four ways. Yeah? Heart anger is the somewhat idealistic goal. So you need to master anger in, anger out, mindful anger.
Is heart anger very angry? Does that have to be vulnerability, fighting?
No, heart anger would be anger which comes out of bodhicitta. So like the mother wanting to protect her child.
Act angry, but maybe you're not angry inside. So you're angry?
Yes, it has. It can have so it is a bit of anger out, without losing the connection with the heart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With mindful anger, the problem with mindful anger, that sounds good. The problem with mindful anger is that you get so good at mindful anger that you don't say anything anymore. And we need rage. We need rage in the world. So you get so good in mindful anger. My ex-partner, she said, it's the, how did she call it? This is the stone, no, this is the monk's face. The monk's face. And she always hit directly into the point. The monk's face. I was so good at mindful anger, it was difficult to relate. There was no expression. And I could sit in the most unjust situation with my mindful anger and say some Om Mani Padme Hum, but it was time to speak up. So that's a problem with mindful anger, because the anger, the energy, the clarity in anger is kind of moving. Yeah, it can change things. It makes you speak. Yeah? So it's not. I don't think when we talk about heart anger, you would say heart anger. You would say you are not angry anymore and you just play it. I don't think what they talk about. Otherwise, they wouldn't make this, flames and thoughts, and so I think that.
You said anger covers up something. Does
Yeah.
it have to be there then? I mean, if you're taught by it,
probably not. Yeah, probably not.
Because it can still be anger, but not covering.
Yeah. Yes. Probably not. But let's say we talk about like a normal person. So I guess. So there would be maybe like for a mother, there would be the helplessness and vulnerability. And she might be aware of that, which would be good. But so still she gets angry, but and there is the vulnerability, and yeah, but still she does not lose the connection with her heart, with her love. I mean, I just talk theoretically when I talk about heart anger. So it's more like conceptual. I have a sense, but I not even had children. So
can we say the relation between Marpa and Milarepa?
Absolutely, yes.
Or Tilopa,
yeah,
and Marpa?
Mm-hmm.
It's what you're talking
Yes.
about.
This is, if you get close to a Tibetan master, you will always get that.
Yeah.
It's horrible. In the beginning, they are these old, kind grandfathers. And then, if they trust you, I mean, there needs to be a bond.
Yeah.
Then they will hit you with with their mala.
It's the same in Zen.
Yeah, I know.
Really, they kill you.
Yeah.
But there is a very strong clarity in anger. And the anger has changed the world also. There is, for instance, social injustice. Isn't it some kind of, maybe it's a heart-filled anger that is needed for that?
Yeah, yes. That's the clarity and the the move.
Getting the wisdom or discrimination out of anger, is that investigating your anger and seeing if there is injustice? Is that the clarity? Or what's the actual link between the anger and the discrimination?
The clarity is a clarity of knowing what to do, what to say. And it's a clarity of, so in an ideal moment, and I think many of us had this, when an anger, what you would call anger, comes connected from the heart and is clear, precise, short, without hostility, without wanting to harm the other person. Then it's like then after we don't feel, oh, I shouldn't have said that, it was wrong, or so it feels like this is the right thing. It's wisdom. So that's the clarity.
I mean, just sorry.
No, it's good.
Yeah, you can just be wise and say the right thing. You don't have to be angry. So how does that anger actually?
If there's someone beating up another person, and you are wise and kind, and you go, oh please, this is not good. We should all love each other. That's not going to do. There you need to be a ninja.
When you express it, then you need to be black.
Yeah. What?
If it's a different word, like not using anger, but
yeah, it could be helpful to have some kind of.
Because it's a different energy. It's completely different energy.
Yeah, it could be helpful to kind of have different labels, yeah? Like aggression, anger, hatred.
The anger sometimes means wanting to harm, and that's not what you want. You want them to stop beating. You don't want to harm.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
You want them to stop harming others.
Yes. So. Yeah. So, but when we read, anger is the enemy. Anger is a poison. In these teachings, that's not helpful at all, because you just mentioned we should look at it more I don't know, sophisticated, or with more thought and with more discrimination, and not just saying anger is a poison, because that.
Like a bell that something is really wrong here and you need to do something about
it. It's not helpful at all, that teaching, I think.
But don't you think that it's a poison for the student on the path to bodhisattva? The bodhisattva, it's very healthy. It's the way I understand.
That makes yes. That's why it is there.
Maybe at the first day that not to react so quickly and not use anger as a harming others, but it's a really this huge energy that there is in anger.
Yeah. So this is the skill of anger in. Be like a log of wood. Yeah. And it's
the context.
Yeah. So
the level of the.
So that it is a skill, but which is only appropriate in certain situations. So it's not a skill you want to apply at any time and all the time. So yeah. So then one addition to like preparing ourselves for heart anger, and that is the real deep practice of seeing and connecting with people behind how they act. So you stay connected, you train yourself to see the Buddha nature in people. You train yourself to see that people, they act in certain ways because they are hurt, because they are confused. You train yourself to see that this is also true for you. So you don't make this cognitive fusion between your actions and who you are. Yeah? So if you have an addictive pattern, you are not a junkie. You have Buddha nature. You are a good person. So, and that's what we do. So we see someone who is acting in a certain way, and then we say, this is an evil person. So we make a cognitive fusion between the way this person now acts and who the person is. We come together. And since this person is an evil person, he deserves to be hurt. I'm right. Okay, so let's have a break. Our last meditation, I would like to do something which is called dedication. So that is sharing the positive energy, the positive potential. So let's take a few moments again to adjust your posture and relax into the fields we have built up during this weekend. Emphasizing a bit the felt sense in your body and the breath. A moment of being with what is and what is happening for you. And then a good way to start is to appreciate, to be grateful or happy, to rejoice about being here, having spent a meaningful weekend. That we all took the time and the money to show up. And not only you, but all the other people. Then if you think about the moments of peace or insight, joy, the moments where you received something which is useful for you, helpful, wholesome, so just the joy of being here, having breaks together and eating, meditating together. Connecting with this ancient wisdom tradition of Tibetan Buddhism. It's so wonderful, precious. If you would die today, this was probably the most useful you could have done on your last weekend. And all that positive energy, kindness, wisdom, we share with each other from heart to heart. Giving and receiving. Then you could imagine that from this moment, from this weekend, from this group, from this place, there's waves, like if you throw a stone into a pond, there's waves into all directions. So there's a vibration, waves going out in ever widening circles, or widening circles of love, of healing, of peace, of harmlessness. Into the city. And that is possible because in a moment where you're connected with your inner life, you see that you're not separate, that the movements of your heart make a difference into all directions. Our heart reaches out to our children, parents, partners, friends, colleagues, bathing them, wishing them well. And then also we can reach out to all the people right now who are doing the same, a net of prayers, a net of wishes for well-being. We also fill the activities of the center and this room and all the people who help with the positive energy of this weekend. And with that, all the projects of Lama Zopa. And we send our gratitude and our support to all the unknown bodhisattvas, the bus drivers, nurses, mothers and fathers. And then we also send this positive potential, or this positive energy, the merit, the vitality to your future. So that when you go home, you are moving with these waves. You are actually one of those waves moving out from this place, bringing space wherever you go. And then the coming days and weeks and months and years and lifetimes, protecting you, nurturing you, healing you, supporting you, guiding you. For the benefit of all. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free, in peace. May all beings come home. The weak ones and the powerful ones, the small ones and the big ones, the visible and the invisible, the near and the far. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free. May all beings come home. Someone asked me in the break, she's not here now, but about the three poisons, because it is anger is not doesn't fall into the category. So what is called the three poisons is aversion, attraction, and ignorance. So anger is in the list of the unwholesome mental factors. But also aversion and attraction and ignorance, from the tantric point of view, they have a wisdom aspect. So also there one could look a bit more sophisticated than it is presented in the kind of Sutrayana teachings. So are there any questions? Something You want me to say something about? Yes.
I wonder if you could say something more. You said a little bit in the beginning about the direct path and the gradual path. How to combine them, work together.
Where are you there? Are you drawn to a direct path, or to which one?
More the direct path.
No, which one?
The direct.
Yeah, in which kind of color or practice? You can't say. Just from what I said, or
yes.
Okay. How to practice them together? Yeah.
Or combine them. You do one.
I don't think there's a recipe.
No.
It's so different for different people. And some people are very drawn from the beginning to a direct path. And I remember when I've heard the first kind of pith instruction from the Dzogchen tradition in the beginning when I was a monk, and it was Sogyal Rinpoche, and someone made a kind of with music. It was like, and then he was like saying a few sentences, and he kept on repeating, "Just rest in natural peace. Just rest in natural peace." And I was thinking, bullshit, I don't know how to do it. It didn't make sense for me. It sounded good and was a bit of relaxation. Yeah, but I mean, I can relax through other ways as well. So it just, I mean, some other people, they hear that and, they get so excited and, they feel that's what I want to do. For some people, because I'm also where I teach, depending on where I teach and when, also in different periods of my life, I'm teaching, or I'm sharing more from a direct path view. And some people are just, it just doesn't make sense for them. It's just like that's not what they need. And it's like it makes them angry, or they get completely confused, or they just don't get it at all. It's like, yeah. And for some people, it's just like, yeah, this is it. I mean, there's only God. Heaven is now. Yeah. And something in them resonates. And they don't understand what is being said, but there's a kind of strange communication where we know we can't talk about this, but we keep on talking about it. And I know that you know, and you know that I know. And it does not make sense. So if we would talk now in that way, some people would kind of join, and some people would, that's bullshit. What they are talking about. I don't understand it. And of course, we also know that we don't understand it. but doesn't matter because we have understood that there's nothing to understand. Still, there is something. Yeah? So that's called transmission. And it's undescribable. Yet we can sing songs about it, and it's something which can be done only in relationship, in relation. It's transmitted from person to person. And then, also in my own practice, so now recently, I just noticed that kind of retrospectively, I got more into the gradual path again. So I got into shamatha, and I noticed that I have results, more and deeper results than before. Maybe because to the direct path teaching, there's no pressure anymore. I mean, why would I put pressure into something when I'm already there? But still, there seems to be room for improvement, or room for a deeper experience of the direct path, a more stable experience. In the Dzogchen tradition, they do it like this. They give what they call a pointing out instruction. So in a way, what we just did was a kind of pointing out instruction. And then there's like two different approaches there. One is, this is the only practice. So you kind of, you bring yourself into this kind of dialogues, into this kind of communications again and again and again. And then slowly, your mind has a homing instinct. Your mind wants to relax into home. And the mind does not understand how to do it, but I mean, like on a conceptual level, but something in you kind of knows. You don't know, you can't describe, there's no trick. Nobody can explain your mind how to relax into home. But your mind has this homing instinct. And because your mind gets to know through the transmission how it feels, or how it is there. So it starts to learn to relax into it. So, and that's the only practice. And they say then repeated moments again and again until they become more continuous. So it's like glimpses. And then it's gone. And you do that once an hour, 10 times an hour, 30 times an hour. So it's a daily life practice. The other is that and so if it would be like a kind of essence Dzogchen Mahamudra guide. So, but the other is when it's more embedded into traditions like structure, then all the people who have received this pointing out instruction, they would also get the instruction of the gradual path. So they would also do the purification practice and cultivating shamatha and so on. So they would also do the same, because that kind of work makes it possible for them to really rest in the gap of the pointing out instruction. And I don't know if there at one point needs to be a kind of radical shift, because as long as you stick to the gradual path methods, you confirm the hallucination that there is someone who is on the path getting somewhere. As long as you do purification practices, you confirm the hallucination that there is someone who needs to have purification. So it could be that, I don't know, it could be that at one point you just need to put all your cards into the direct path. I don't know. I'm not there yet. I'm too afraid. And also it's so uncomfortable to teach the direct path for me. Because I'm, you know, you need to talk in paradox and nonsense. And that's hard, you know, to sit in a group of people and, you know, and they're sitting there and they want to understand and they want to have knowledge and they want to have books to read. And you need to admit, I have nothing to give. I have nothing to add. There's nothing we need to do. So, and also I need to make money. So, and with the 9 stages and so on, you can keep people busy for lifetimes. So they keep coming back and pay. So.
But you still represent you represent a lineage, you represent a tradition, and this is very important because the first Friday night you name Eckhart Tolle and Adya, and Adya was a Zen guy, but now, I mean, they are wonderful, but there is no tradition, there is no foundations, and when Adya will pass away, you understand? The same thing. Yeah.
Yes, I appreciate. Of course, I appreciate traditions. It's really a safety factor. Yeah. So it's so that's right. Does that answer your question? So you, at one point I said, you know, maybe it's good to, in answering another question, to make part of what you want to do is what feels good. Yeah, not to make it the only criteria, but like an important. So what feels good? Where do you feel joy and curiosity, and where do you feel you actually progress?
Right, and if I don't misunderstand, I think I when you speak and when you guide meditations, not only this weekend, which I heard before, you have both.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So I usually start with, when I guide a meditation, I start with some gradual path. Bring your attention there, breathe there, do this, do that, you know, all that. Yeah. So that's like, and then not always, if I guide a conceptual meditation, then of course, you know, then the direct path is not so obvious, but usually, as you say, usually there is at one point the pointer to stillness, to space, to that which is aware, to that what knows. So, and that would be instructions from a direct path view. Yeah.
I think that's very helpful.
Yeah. So even in one session, it's. And sometimes, also in my own practice, I'm just, you know, I'm not in a place of liking who is aware, or like it's all okay as it is. I'm not there. it would be just lip service. It would be just some words. Yeah. So then, okay. So where's the breath, impermanence of the breath, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
Mm.
Is there a danger as Westerners to put too much psycho blah 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 in Buddha's path?
Mm. Is that a question, or is that what you think?
It's an offering. What you want.
It is obviously something I hear, and some people say this about me. Yeah, so like I've heard someone saying in Copenhagen, it became like a psychotherapeutical center or something like that. Yeah. So there's, yeah, I don't know. That really, of course, that it is a challenge for us to bring these teachings into our culture without distorting them, without destroying them. That's really a challenge. So that's why I'm relaxed here, teaching in this center and in other FPMT centers, because I know that there will be people coming who don't do that. They teach this exactly in the way they received it, exactly how their teacher received it, and they do that. So, and then there can be then there can be some space for people like me who kind of do the experiential Buddhism and make mistakes. Yeah. Make it too much psychological blah blah. Yeah. So that's the risk. But I think for a center and for Buddhism to become rich and really meaningful in the West, we need to have both. We need to have the ones who are fundamentalistic, traditional, and they do what they always did, and they preserve that. And then we need the ones who have experience with it. They really studied that. I know this. I really know that fundamentalistic traditional stuff. And then there needs to be the psycho blah 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 people. Yeah. So and then in this they need to be in a fruitful dialogue, which from this side does not happen so often. Yeah, so that's a problem. I don't know anyone from the blah 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 psycho who says the tradition is wrong and bullshit and we need to get rid of that. I have not met one there, but from this point of view, there is some who kick me out. It's very uncomfortable to be one of those. It's much safer to be one of those.
Yes, it depends, but it's also like the essence. Maybe if we put too much of our psychological things,
Yeah, but they will preserve that. And of course, I need to be corrected. So that's why I need the dialogue with those. They need to look at me and say, hey, this is too much. You're losing it. And I have mentors who do that. They look at what I'm doing and then they say, that's... I think you...
Yeah. But maybe because you're not completely mature, because the Dalai Lama, I never met him. I read a lot of books, and he's very open-minded, and really he tried to integrate the whole universe and to serve the teaching in a very modern way.
I would love to have the Dalai Lama as my mentor, but he has a long waiting list. So, yeah, of course, I'm then always, when I scan through books, like from the Dalai Lama or from other teachers, and I find the traditional teachers supporting what I say, that always makes me very happy. Yeah. Because like when I started to teach, for example, like 15 years ago, nobody was talking about self-acceptance. I think Tara Brach has not even published her book, or that was before. So that was like, okay. Yeah. So nobody talks about self-compassion, self-acceptance, and they talk about self-cherishing, and that's bad. But then when I started to look at the books, and I just found, something from one of the teachers saying, yeah, you need to start with yourself, Tonglen, also start with yourself, loving kindness, start with yourself. Well, then I felt, wow, yeah. It is not psycho blah blah blah. You find it in the traditional teachings. But I know that I'm accumulating a bit of negative karma. But I hope the positive karma overweights the negative karma. So if I die, you need to pray for me. Yes.
I have a question relating to the previous question about at some point maybe having to let go of the gradual. Because I think isn't it true that even from that point of view, cessation is not considered a cause phenomenon? You can't make it. So at some point you have to let go.
Yes.
The gradual path can't take you to the goal.
No.
In a way.
Yeah. Yes. And yes. All right. And it seems to be like time tested that the gradual path makes this cessation more probable. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. If I wouldn't, in my own experience and what I see in the different traditions, if I wouldn't see that the gradual path makes you accident prone to that cessation. But you can't really, as you said, you can't do anything for it. I mean, for that, like, work harder so that the sensation happens quicker or something like that. So it seems to be a bit out of control, and nobody has found the perfect recipe.
It's a cake that can't be baked.
Yes, in the Christian mystic, they have this idea of grace. So, of course, you can make yourself ready and open, and you can clean up and grow up. But then the wake up in the Christian tradition is a moment of grace, and you don't know when. Yes.
Just one slightly more practical, down to earth thing. You said a couple of authors yesterday. Have you got anyone you recommend or books you recommend for the subjects around strong emotions like anger and stuff?
Yes, so there's the books by Tibetan children and His Holiness, and so there's books, and they refer often to the 7th chapter of Shantideva's book. Yeah? So that's one thing. So this kind of description, or I mean, of the four skills. So of course you can find these in models like the RAIN model, but this particular kind of description I got from a spiritual teacher called Robert Augustus Masters. He is a psychotherapist. He has a strong Buddhist background, and he wrote a few books. But if you Google Masters wrathful, what did I say? Wrathful compassion, or heart anger, then you will come to an article he wrote about this.
What's his name again?
Robert Augustus Masters. And he wrote a few books about emotion. And then there's Rob Priest.
Yeah.
Feeling Wisdom is one of his latest books. And then there's one book. It's a small booklet. I think it's called Turning Vinegar into Turning vinegar. What could you turn vinegar into?
Turning vinegar to wine.
Wine? No, that was not.
That's the expression.
Yeah, right. But it has something like that. But I can look it up. I have it on my reader, so I can tell you. It's 7 steps. And what I got from that book is this exploration of what I talked about, that anger often is a secondary emotion, and talking about the vulnerability under it. So he has a whole chapter on that. Maybe vinegar into honey, but that does not make sense. But I will look it up. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I think time is up. Yeah, who comes next as a teacher? Do you know?
Venerable Namgyal.
Okay. That's
All
good.
about karma next.
Okay.
April.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yes. So if you go there, it might be helpful to read the chapter on karma in this book I recommend from Miles Neil, The Gradual Path. Yeah, it's good to kind of be a bit prepared to assimilate traditional teachings so it could be helpful to have a bit of a psychological blah 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 view on karma. So Martin already mentioned the retreat. It has been always booked all these years, so I assume it will be booked. So if you want to join, then you should register now. There's only space for 20-25 people.
Yeah,
22. So it's quite small. And then,
we've already got some people coming.
Yeah. Some people already registered. Yeah. And then, so if you want to listen to some of my teachings or guided meditations, I have a SoundCloud profile. there's also a playlist with about 40 guided meditations, and then there's teachings. So you can listen to that, and you can access the material also through all podcast apps, also Spotify. It's also on Spotify. So it's called Natural Meditation Podcast. So it's on Apple and Android, and so the different podcast apps. By the way, get yourself a good podcast app, and and listen to some podcasts. Like when you travel, that's like what I do. I have like 30 podcasts, downloaded podcast channels. And it's good stuff.
And also, if people want to go back to this weekend on our Facebook and YouTube channels.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Be well, and see you again.
So I just wanted to say thank you, first of all, to everyone who came for this weekend. And then obviously thank you to Stefan. You already know what this is, a little card from everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
And then I thought, since you feel so untraditional, I shall offer you a kata. Very traditional.
What do I do with it? No, I take it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been really, really wonderful, and I know from what I've heard from people that there's been a lot of benefit. Thank you so much, and do come back soon.
I will.
Thank you. And if like